Good afternoon. I'm completing the final submission regarding this permit, rejecting this permit regarding the Amazon Data Services system over here. And the main reason for rejecting the permit isn't so much that there was a deception regarding what they wanted to do here. Okay. Here we have a system where this data system is going to absorb a tremendous amount of energy and absorb and waste a tremendous amount of water and expose the public to nuclear byproducts within 1 mile of an elementary school. But the overall thing is that this technology site south of the North Creek Reservoir is actually the key component for a regional water system that recovers water from air by simply the use of physics. And in doing so, increases the output electrical power from the existing power plant by 30% by simply cooling the industrial warm water lake by putting in what we call a diode. That would be a heat sink, tubing system with internal heat sinks here. See, the U.S. Corps of Engineers is a master of managing water downhill and using gravitation and that sort of thing. But that's only half of the energy equation, and that is the limits of their technology and their funding, and anybody's technology and funding, not just the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers. They just operate here on this side of the globe. But if you want the additional power and capability that exists by managing fluid flows uphill, you can't do that with technology and power and stuff like they're doing here. Okay? Here, by the use of physics alone, by placing in this diode. And a diode, simply when you take a chaotic energy source and drain energy away, you have rectified and produced a pressure and current energy flow. Now, you do this all the time when you guys were children and you put a hose inside of a gas container in your parents' car and siphoned the gas out. Once you got it going, you had a diode which took the energy, gas energy, out through a tube and then delivered it into the components you want. Well, here, North Anna's warm water industrial lake, which you call the warm side, is nothing more than a terrestrial battery of huge, enormous size. Unused, you're evaporating water and sending it out into the ecosystem, and it's gone. The heat raises the ambient temperature so much so that some of my customers in past years couldn't even enjoy their front weather porches that looked at the lake. They had to go inside to use air conditioning. So by simply placing a piping system between here and the North Creek Technology campus site, you're able to produce enough kinetic energy flow here that reduces the power of the lake, the heat temperature within the lake. And as a result of that, because this is Rankine cycle cooling within the power generation system, the power used normally to cool water is now able to go out on the grid. Now, the beautiful thing about this current flow is current flow comes in different mechanisms of power. Okay, get this here. See, you have liquid water, heat, and antimatter, okay, that produces kinetic energy, flow, and pressure, okay? But this power stream of waste energy is byproduct into water to return to the lake, as well as, excess water that starts to fill the North Creek Reservoir, okay? Just the pipe from point A to point B does that, and in doing so, you increase the output of the plant by 600 megawatts. Now, normally you would have to build a power plant to do that. Here, you just have to put a piping system in. Because we are not using technology, we are using physics. And this diode is activated by simply having a lower elevation here and a higher elevation here. And the airflow continues, rectification, just like siphoning water out of a reservoir of fuel or water, okay? You're now siphoning heat by use of conduction rather than gravity and air pressure. Conduction and air pressure are able to take heat from here. And when you go into what we call a conduction chamber, ambient energy chamber, conduction chamber, you literally, because the dew point of this is so high, when you get to this point and you run it through the ground, through pipes in the ground, the distillation starts to let it rain every day. I said rain every day. And this is an autonomous process. Once you put it in place and connect it, it runs. There's no power, no energy, because energy, by our definition of energy, is something that you can harvest and store and that sort of thing, okay, regardless whether it's nuclear, cold, hydro, or whatever. But this runs by conduction force, which is one of those forces that creates energy in the universe. So a conduction force generator's energy source, to use that nebulous word in this case, causes unlimited power. And there's no maintenance. It just simply flows, just like when you're siphoning water out of a tank. It continuously flows. There's nothing you have to do. You don't have to put a pumping system in it. Now, as a result of that, you would put this atop a housing unit system of 4,500 housing units. And they in itself would excrete even additional water. And there's no heat or electricity from an outside source required, because this is the energy source, okay? But this energy stream, because it's kinetic energy, is producing also electricity by electromagnetic conversion. And then we're taking the water that is capillated and condensed here, and we are able to, by electrolysis, produce hydrogen and oxygen, which produces its own electrical energy generation here. But it also starts to raise the ambient temperature of the heat mat beneath certain sections of this facility. See, this is a autonomous system, but it's also a regenerative system, okay? Once you get it going, it just continues to go, continues to go. Now, continuing either out of the ambient air around the facility, the ambient air here, you're able to produce enough additional water to flood out the North Creek Reservoir in drought. Flood out the North Creek Reservoir in drought. Flood out the North Creek Reservoir in drought and provide enough additional water to go into the Zions Crossroads, Fluvanna area and backfill that nebulous James River piping system that they tried to slip in on us on the down low and cost $1 billion to build, where they can't get any water out of the James River because the James River has no water in it because of drought. And this is a conundrum that Henrico County is running into in regards to the reservoir system they built in Cumberland County. And because of this, again, they went to the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers, and they're masters at what they do, but they're only masters of catching water. They've yet to cross the threshold of using physics to manufacture water out of air. Remember the basic principle in 3rd grade. For every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction. But unless you're aware that you have the ability to energy harvest, condense, and use the alternate use, you won't be able, the U.S. Corps of Engineers won't be able to accomplish its mission of safeguarding the nation, especially when the nebulous is climate change, and the only way to resolve that is to know how to make water out of air. These facilities, these aqua gardens, are child's play, and to put them in takes the energy system from being a spoke, isolated system into autonomous little regions that operate the Earth's energy system no longer on petroleum, coal, but warm air rising, Earth heat energy battery, hydrogen and oxygen, which byproduct when it's recombined is not only water, but its heat temperatures up to 2,000 degrees centigrade, more than enough for any industrial application on Earth. So once you master diode theory, once you master heat sink, once you understand that everything on the planet is a diode, you're able to do with physics what technology could never do.